Welcome to Mark's Moving TV. My name is Mark Silverman, President and CEO of Mark's Moving and Storage. Today we're with Steve Filonow, Director of Safety and Training at Arpin Van Lines. Hey Steve, how are you? So tell me a little bit about your role at Arpin Van Lines. What's your daily role?
My daily role is to examine customer service and complaints, proficiencies.
Oh, we don't have complaints. No complaints.
No complaints. Well, every once in a while we get one. I look at mostly shipment data and quality scores that come in from post-move surveys. And I try to figure out what we're doing really well, what we need to work on, what circumstances in a move that create the best situation, what circumstances create the most challenging situation. So we can try to eliminate the bad things, obviously, and kind of put people in the best position to be successful. So it's a lot of data and trying to infer why things went well, why things maybe didn't go well, why they were early, late, whatever, and try to put a plan together to both eliminate the things that are negative and to accentuate the things that are positive.
Well, I know we've been a partner with Arpin Van Lines for 15 or 20 years at this point, and I know whatever data you're researching and you're compiling, you must be doing really good things with it, because I know that all of our clients, most of our clients, 99.9% of our clients that use Arpin Van Lines in conjunction with Mark's, they're happy. So the quality of work that's coming out of the van line really must be top notch, because we have them fill out quality control reports, we ask them how the project went, and almost always they're happy. And there's a lot of different services that Arpin offers. Could you tell me a little bit about the different types of services that can be ordered through Arpin Van Lines?
So Arpin is basically two halves. It has an international component, which is worldwide, and the domestic component. So on the domestic side, we literally do everything. Every type of transportation, every type of move, from office, industrial, certainly household goods, many different ways to transit those household goods, storage, hotel projects, commodities, literally anything that rolls on a truck, we're involved in. On the international side, we have 12 overseas offices in Europe, Asia, South America, and we have a presence in virtually every market in every big city, every continent on Earth. Through that connection, there's kind of a synthesis between the domestic national account moving. So certainly like a Coca-Cola that we represent, they're everywhere. So if Coca-Cola needs to move someone, or the State Department is moving someone, or Caterpillar is moving someone, we have the ability to project ourselves literally anywhere on Earth.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of our clients use us for local moving, and in conjunction with Arpin, we'll do long distance moving. But I think that the majority of them don't realize the depth that Mark's Moving and Arpin Van Lines has to be able to perform these international moves, as well as you talked about the hospitality business, whether someone's opening a new hotel, whether there's trade show work. There's a whole bunch of areas that maybe our audience doesn't really understand that we're capable of handling. You said you have 12 offices located around the world. Where are some of those offices?
Germany, Ireland, Singapore, Brazil, Russia, Arab Emirates, I'm missing Australia.
Well, this is
pretty much everywhere.
That's pretty good from memory. It's a lot better than I would have been able to do. But to that point, so if someone has an international move, it's not as if, oh, it's great, we have Mark's in the States, and then we're going to keep our fingers crossed when it gets to another country and just hope that everything goes well. In fact, you have representation. You have Arpin international offices, as you said, in those countries all over the world, and it's someone you can pick up the phone, you can get on the computer and interact with someone you actually know, so you don't have to keep your fingers crossed. Your network literally extends throughout the world, which is a great benefit to all of our clients, and we appreciate having that relationship and partnership with Arpin.
It really is. We don't just have connections over there. We have true relationships because we do such a large volume of work. So across the world, if you have an issue or if you have a move, we don't just know somebody, we have a true partnership in almost every corner of the world. And that translates back into the States, where the world economy is so global now that there's so many people in the local area that are foreign nationals that are here for a certain amount of time, who have emigrated here. That connection internationally has been such a huge connection to the domestic business, because half the people you meet were not born in the United States, and that business connection trickles down all the way down to the 1 mile local move here, that you can do all the way to the other side of the earth.
Well, it's quite a success story Arpin Van Lines has had. How many years has Arpin been in business?
They've been in business since 1900.
1900.
Horse and buggy.
Really?
Horse and buggy.
Well, we've only been in business 40 years, but I do know that we pick our strategic partners with a lot of thought and a lot of research, and we've just been so excited to be part of Arpin Van Lines because for all the reasons you mentioned, we don't feel like we just have a partner that maybe does an okay job. We have a partner that's been over 100 years and really knows what they're doing, and that creates a tremendous amount of confidence and makes these relocations stress-free for all our clients, and we really, really appreciate that. How have you seen things change since you've been in the industry?
Well, I started with Arpin in 1983, so a very long time with them, and they were a fairly small company when I started, and they grew through the 80s dramatically, and late 80s started their international thing. So I've kind of been there since the ground floor when they really transitioned to a force across the United States and the world, rather than just being a regional carrier like they had been. The company is just so dynamic. It is always moving forward. Like, that's the thing that attracted me to the company in the first place, was the tempo and the pace that they were absolutely on a mission to get bigger, to get better in every way, every day. And that's still the case today. There's a tremendous pressure from the Arpin family to maintain quality, to not step backwards at any moment, to always be advancing, always improving. The moving business has changed quite a bit in the last half dozen years, just due to the fact that some of the drivers are retiring out, and there isn't a huge amount of people coming in behind them. And I just think it's a natural, just a natural occurrence that I see it in the military. Guys don't want to be away from their families that long. Like, the old, 1950s, 1960 owner-operator was like a cowboy out on the road.
Did what they had to do to take care of their families.
Yeah, one man against the world, almost like sailors, like going to sea. And now the younger guys, they want to be, have like a home port, and they'll go out for a couple of days and they'll come back. And that's basically your model for your people. They have their home base here. They're very happy to work in the area, go on short trips, but they don't want to be gone 2 or 3, 4 weeks. And I think that's healthier. I think you get a better worker. That's the way I worked. I didn't want to be away. I didn't like to be away when I was a driver. And I think you get much better quality when people have their infrastructure around them and they have their comfort zone. And that's what that's the way the business has gone, but we've embraced it and said this is the way it's going to be, and tried to make it an advantage, not a liability.
If people want to learn more about Arpin Van Lines, what is the website for Arpin?
Well, it's arpin.com, and through that portal you can go to different resources that we have on the site.
And obviously for all of these services, people can go to the marksmoving.com site, and we outline all the services as well. And we act as the agent. We're a prime agent for Arpin Van Lines, and therefore offer all of these services that you've mentioned. Tell me about the Creighton Freight or the Arpin Express. I hear a lot about long-distance moves now being performed, not necessarily in a truck, all of the household goods going into a truck. But in fact, some are being handled now almost as if it were an international move. They're being put into crates, then put with general truckers. Why do we have the change, and is the change for the better or for the worse? Tell me your thoughts on this new way of shipping household goods.
Well, there's a couple of things going on. One is, if anybody's driven down the highway, trucks are a lot bigger than they used to be. And the capacity of that truck now is so enormous that if you have a couple of rooms that you want to move across the country, you're only taking up 1/15 of that truck. So it doesn't put you in a really advantageous position for timing, because you're just a small portion of the load. What we were just talking about with guys getting out of the business, domestically, we're shifting towards a more international model. So if you're moving to Italy, you're going to have a group here, pack and load it, put it in crates or in a container. It's shipped by a third party, and then another group in Italy will unload you. There's a little discontinuity there. But that's very effective.
And it's been done like that internationally
that's
for
the
years.
only way to do it. They're not flying me to Italy to unload
Exactly.
the thing.
Although you'd like to go
I
if
would
they
love
did.
to go. So domestically, for the smaller shipments, it makes perfect sense, because with a freight carrier, when you put everything in the crates, and it's exactly the same level of protection that it would be on a truck. When you go with a freight carrier, there's so many of them that literally it's like the T train. You can get a truck every 5 minutes that's going to the West Coast. So it's far more predictable, it's more reliable for the smaller shipments, and the freight company will literally guarantee that Tuesday on the 27th at 10 a.m. it will be in San Francisco. And if you have a very small shipment, that's the perfect balance of speed of transport and safety. So Arpin has really that's their newest focus. They call it Arpin Express. And for the bigger shipments, they still go on the padded van, the tractor trailer cross country or around town. But for the very small shipment, just a few rooms, you can now expedite that and actually transit it quicker than it would be on a moving truck, because the freight lines, when their driver times out, they just go into the terminal, another guy gets in the seat. It's like the Pony Express. Those things are always moving. So we're trying to find a balance between servicing everyone at the same level. Again, what we noticed was that the people with smaller shipments were kind of being second-class citizens. And the Arpin Express is a premium service. It is quicker, same level of care.
So it's funny, so out of necessity, you have a disruption in the marketplace where you have to find better ways to ship these small shipments. And then you say, oh, well, why can't we just do this like the international shipments? And then you find out that the people are getting better service. They're getting more reliable service. In some cases, the price can be less, same or less, as waiting weeks for your things. Now you can get across country, a little shipment in a week. You just have to get society to adopt this new method of shipping. I know that at first we're like, oh, we're not putting things in crates. That's not going to work. Then we started doing it. And we're going, this is great. I can load something up on a Monday and I can have it delivered in LA by the end of the week, where previously we were telling people they might have to wait a month or several weeks. So it's really worked out great, and I compliment Arpin's effort and the Arpin Express. It's really a terrific service that our clients can get, and another reason that we enjoy partnering with Arpin Van Lines, because you are innovative. You do think, how can we do this better? And then you do. And that is what differentiates Mark's Moving, Arpin Van Lines from a lot of the competition, is we're always trying to improve. We're always trying to do what's best for the client. So Arpin Van Lines, Mark's Moving, we have some of the most professional individuals out there in the field working for us. And there are a lot of people that apply for work that we don't hire, that Arpin Van Lines doesn't hire. There's a very a very difficult process to go through in order to be all the boxes to be checked so that we say, hey, we have the best people out there. Can you just tell me a little bit about what goes into the research before an employee is hired? Then what do you do to make sure that they're doing their job and complying with all the laws? What's the process? How do you monitor it?
So we have probably the strictest guidelines of any carrier.
Which Marks Moving and Storage follows.
Yep. Other carriers maybe will allow certain offenses that guys have maybe committed when they were younger men or younger women. We don't. So we have a background check that is very, very thorough. It takes weeks. You can get a background check in 5 minutes if you want at a very low level. Ours takes weeks because they call around to every municipality to see if this person has done anything. If they have, they're instantly disqualified. Everyone is tested for substance abuse. And probably the biggest thing is after you pass through that, which I'll say that process removes 9 out of 10 applicants. So you're only getting 10% of the people through. Of those 10% that are making it through, we have a constant monitoring program where we look at the performance over time and their consistency. So it's very important that they are monitored, the quality of their work is monitored. So if, for instance, their life situation changes or they go through a divorce or have a tragedy in the family, we're trying to be proactive with them and understand what's going on in their life and support them and to make sure that they continue to provide a quality service. Moving is like a wedding or a funeral. You use it 3 or 4 times in your life, but every time it has to be perfect. You can't get a do-over. And although it is a service, the quality and the consistency have to be there. So as your partner, you're at the very, very top of our agents in terms of overall quality and at the pinnacle of consistency. So when I hear Marks Moving is doing something, there is like a 99.999% chance that the people will be delighted, not just satisfied, but absolutely delighted. So as a partner, could not ask for a better partner in Marks. We are very, very concerned about maintaining, like I said, high quality and consistency across day in and day out. And that's difficult to do to keep people motivated, but you have found, the magic to keep your crews engaged and doing high quality work every day.
We appreciate that, Steve, that feedback. And one of the reasons we're able to do that is because you provided us with the formula to do that. So being a partner with Arpin is very important to us because you help us, you provide the structure, the systems that we then just have to maintain to make sure that we have the cream of the crop, that we have the best in class, that we have the people that have gone through the scrutiny of your background checks and you monitor them. You're like the police. You make sure that all our men are doing what they're supposed to be doing, that they're all complying with all the laws, whether it's their electronic log devices that make sure that they're not driving when they're tired, to making sure that people's backgrounds have been checked out properly so that when we do send the men to someone's home, we know we're sending great men and women there. We can't promise anybody a perfect move because there's a human element involved. But what we do promise them, and we fulfill that promise every day, is that we'll do whatever's humanly possible to help ensure that the likelihood, the probability is that they're going to get a perfect move. And with the partnership with Arpin, I think we've been able to accomplish that almost every time. And I thank you for being a valued partner of Marks Moving and Storage and really appreciate you coming out here today. It was good to see you again, Steve. Thank you.
Nice to see you, Mark.